How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. CFC DP here with another video. This one is really just another venting session. Another 2-0 defeat to Tottenham this time, and Chelsea are in one of the worst runs of form that we probably have seen since the turn of the century. It just isn't good. I needed a couple days after the Tottenham loss to kind of calm down, think about the bigger picture, sort of think about what the next steps could be for Chelsea Football Club under Graham Potter in this Todd Boehly regime. Definitely just a lot to get into. So I guess the best way to start is to talk about that Tottenham game, which was sort of what Chelsea fans thought was maybe the last stand for Graham Potter. Had a full week of training, about, a few further days, which he actually decided to give the guys off, which in a World Cup year, a lot of games over the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, you can definitely understand giving the players a little bit of time off. Hopefully they come back refreshed, prepared to go, and ready to do it. But it just was the wrong thing, I think, because it looked like there was no plan. It looked like the game was too big for them in that moment against a Spurs team that we've routinely kind of put down with little to no harm over the past few years. And it was really disappointing to see how Chelsea came out of the game. They looked okay. There was some movements, kind of a peculiar little bit of mix and matching from the lineup of new and old players. It was Kepa, Thiago Silva, who went off and will miss a little bit of an extended period of time with an injury after Harry Kane fell on him. Koulibaly, Reece James, Chilwell, which I think we were all pretty said, okay, if that's what you're back, you're in a pretty decent spot. Because Koulibaly looked really well in the Champions League. Reece and Chilwell are your first choices, I think, in those left back and right back positions, respectively. It was Enzo and Loftus-Cheek who looked good against Dortmund. We did end up seeing Hakim Ziyech. Kai Havertz played, and it was just bad. It was just bad. There wasn't really much to say for positively. When I say it before that the game felt a little too big for Chelsea, and it was Raheem Sterling who started as well. Anyways, but when we look at what Chelsea do and bring to the table every week, I can't genuinely answer that question for you. Possession is a key part of our system, it looks like. We try and use Enzo Fernandez's creativity. We do try to connect with a fluid front. João Felix played. I'm sorry. João Felix in those little half spaces, But overall, I just don't think a back four works for us. You look at what you look at what Potter under his time at Chelsea. What we saw was when we were in a back three, right? The best part about being in a back three for Chelsea is that you get your best playmakers on the ball in good areas. So ever since we moved to the 4 and Reece James has come back in, I've watched him specifically, and he looks disengaged, not interested, because there are no avenues for him to play out there. He cannot push up as much as he would like to because he does not have that cover back there. Hakim Ziyech on the right, I'm tired of seeing him out there because he's not going to be with this team past this summer. It's just a joke. And then he goes out there and does some dumb thing where he should have gotten a red card for probably, and he offers nothing. He offers nothing in those positions. It's just shocking to see him out there. Of anybody. I don't know if they feel bad for the PSG debacle, but I'm sick and tired of seeing him get in Reece's way out there, only be able to cross the ball on his left foot, which everybody in the entire world knows he's going to be doing. That's it. And people pressure him, and they get him uncomfortable, and he puts some lollipop ball right into the middle of the field, and the goalie claims it, and it's no problem. And let me remind you, it's not like we have a Giroux or a big striker that's going to go on and get at the end of those things either. We don't. So having him out there is just a complete waste of time when, one, you're mixing 5 different identities of what you want to do. Do you want to play slick balls in between the lines and find those little half spaces and get runners in? Fine, but you got to have those guys make runs. If you want to have balls cross in from deep, you still have to have guys make runs. And you have to have a profile of player out there that's going to work for that, which isn't Kai Havertz. I'm sorry. It's not. So when you look at what our identity is, and I said this in one of my last videos, when you look at what our identity is as a club, you can't say that we have a playing style that works for us. And you can be Potter in, Potter out, whatever, but if that isn't apparent to you after watching these games, you have to understand that that is the root of our issue. I don't really care about the man management. I really want to have a lineup out there that players can get used to each other, but with our squad, it's just kind of hard to do. But man, before this Leeds game, you have to develop something. You have to say, this is how we're going to play against this team. And have your lineup and your selections reciprocate how you want to play. Now, I'm going to assume that Mudryk, Madueke are 2 players that Graham Potter personally said, yes, they'll work with my ideas and my plans. Well, I think those 2 players should be starting over Hakeem Ziyech. And I'm fine with Raheem Sterling playing because he's versatile enough to kind of fit in those different roles. He's done it with Man City before, and he did it at his previous stops. So if you want to play him over Mudryk, fine, as Mudryk gets assimilated. But man, you can't have Ziyech out there. You just can't. And to not have your best player, which is Reece James, by the way, that's Chelsea's best player, have him be so uninvolved because of your back system is ridiculous. Potter needs to come in and adhere to his players, at least now, at least until the end of the season. Because if you start to say, you know, you have a preseason, you can develop some of your ideas and whatnot, fine. In that, time will tell if that works. But right now, you need to get results. Yes, you are given a time to be a project manager. You're given a long contract and you're given assurances. But man, you better figure out what the hell is going on with your team and put them in situations where they can be successful. Not how you think that they can be successful in your system, but how they can be successful. And if that means reverting to play a back 3, then by God, you got to play a back 3. Because you cannot have your best player be such a non-factor in the game. You cannot. And it pisses me off when I see him just standing back there. When for the last year and a half, he has been our only offensive outlet. And if that's not how you want to play in the future, fine. But you aren't getting the best out of those players than that you brought in to play those positions. I'm at a point where I need him to understand the situation for this year. And I understand that having a long-term project and a long-term plan is important. And implementing those aspects of it are good because you don't want to have success with something that you're not going to be using in the future. And I understand that. But this is beyond a point where you can be tinkering left and right with what has worked in the past. You have to. You have to try it. And the players are not out of this either because they need to perform better as well. I don't think that Kai Havertz is the answer long term, and I know he's not. But he needs to score goals. João Felix needs to score goals. Mudryk needs to score goals. We need to create more chances. And if players need to take that into their own hands, then they have to try and do that. And it's very difficult to do that when you're chopping and change up these lineups every time. Because you do have a week in between each game. You have a week now. This isn't a COVID season where you have so many weeks in the midweek and then you have Champions League and you know FA Cup and Carabao Cup and all that stuff. That's not the case right now. It's not. So pick an 11 that you think is going to work. And I think he started to do that. But now you have a situation where Thiago Silva's out, Azpilicueta's out. Now you're going to have to move into that back 3, and who are your back 3 going to be? Badiashile, Koulibaly, Chalobah probably. Three guys that have not played with each other in that position whatsoever. But you got to do it. Because playing in a back four hurts your team much more than you think that it helps you. And please, there's so much here that's just negative about what's going on with this team. But you got to really focus on getting the best players in their best situations. Enzo Fernandez needs to be more of a playmaker up the field and not just when we're down a goal. This needs to be something that happens from the beginning. So if you need to play Zakaria and have him be that holding presence next to him, fine, then you have to do that. Because you need to get the best out of him in offensive situations, because that's what's so good about his game. He's not a lone DM. You saw him be a little clumsy on the ball back there because he's not comfortable. You saw, Mudryk, he's picking the ball up from halfway. Well, what is he supposed to do? I understand he's a good dribbler and whatnot, but he's not going to dribble all the way to the goal. Get him in some 1-2 situations. When we saw him against Liverpool, it was great interplay between three guys. And part of it, I think, obviously, he cooked Milner, who couldn't keep up with his pace, but get this guy going in space. I know the field space is a problem at Stamford Bridge, and I hope that's something that they understand and when they're rebuilding the stadium or choose a stadium to play at for the part-time, but you need space for runners to get in behind, because without that, you're in trouble, because that's his greatest attribute. So why even sign him if you're not going to give him the license to run, not license to play balls over the top? There's just, it needs to be an identity. And I'm just, I'm not saying that I'm the smartest when it comes to tactics and all that stuff, but I know my fair share. And I know when something doesn't look right, and I know when something's not going to work. So what's it going to be, Potter? Make it work. Be a professional and do your job. Don't sit on the rest on your laurels of you coming in and having a reputation. You don't. Come in and make it work with players. Make it work with their systems. Understand what players need to play with each other, how players need to best be worked. I don't care if they're not in your super long-term plans, but if they help you get results against Leeds, then that needs to be your number one priority. It has to be. It has to be. If he gets sacked, if we do not, if we don't beat Leeds and advance to the Champions League and he gets moved on, I don't know where that we go from there. I know a lot of people have been on Hansi Flick, Enrique, Pochettino, but I think you want this to work, because to have 3 managers in 1 year is just silly season. And I think the owners don't want to be wrong, but the proof is in the pudding. Results are going to happen, or they're not. And that kind of determines where Potter's going to be in the next, next week now. So we'll see how it goes. All right, anybody, thank you for watching this video. Please go ahead, like, subscribe to the video. Happy to give you more content. We have some exciting stuff hopefully coming in the next couple of weeks. So happy to bring that to you, and happy to bring you some more videos. All right, thank you.